Okay, I think you all enjoyed week one. We roasted Matty pretty hard. This week's guest, Stephen Boothie Booth, the Cod Guru, Cod Nationals winner, Freshwater Masters winner, and multiple articles written throughout his life. Let's hear what Stephen Booth has to say tonight.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go live.
Yeah, so basically you just do them up and, they're pretty comfortable. Aren't they? Oh, shit. Well, that's how they work. You've got a little whistle. Hey! Well, look out, I've done it again. We've had a bit of a stuff up at the start there, but anyway, that's the way we go. Hey, listen, guys, thanks for tuning in again for Chewin the Fat with the Cap. We're on for week number 2. We have a special guest, Stephen Booth, tonight, and we're going to chew the fat about everything Mulwala. Hopefully, you guys have got some questions coming through. Good to see the comments coming. We've got some awesome prize packs we'll talk about later on to give away tonight, but look, we can talk about the elephant in the room, and we really need to do that. The coronavirus has been a bit of an issue, and it's really hurt us here at the downtown Studio One in Wodonga. We've had to keep everyone out. So there's our live audience, and of course there is no one there. So we'll be coming to you from an empty studio tonight. And we'll talk to Boothie, who's obviously up in Queensland. So, look, when I can, run this show properly, it'll be good. But I'll bring Boothie into this screen and we'll start with chat. Press the right buttons. G'day, Boothie.
G'day, mate. How are you going?
I'm marvellous. How are you going?
I'm going really well. Thanks for asking.
That's all right. What's the weather been like up in Queensland?
If we weren't in lockdown, it would have been fantastic weather to be out there. And a lot of people have gone out there collecting food with all that's going on, which has been nice to see. Some families going out and getting a good, tasty feed of fillets. So, yeah, it's been perfect Queensland weather for this time of year.
Excellent. Look, I've for the guys that don't know you, I've done a little bit of research just to find out a little bit of information about you. We do know that next year the big 5-0.
Yes, that's a bit scary and daunting.
So I take it you won't be going to the Freshwater Masters next year. You won't be allowed out of the house. The family will want to spend the 5-0 with you.
Oh, I reckon that's probably the case. They pulled the pin on me this year. Which is a bit of a shame, but I reckon I'd struggle to get out of it this year in 50. So, that's assuming we're all allowed out of our house by then. So
yeah, true. We can only hope. Look, we've got to think positive. There has been a lot of negatives on the what do you want to call it, social media over the last couple of weeks, and a fair few people are a bit downhearted. So one of the reasons I set this show up is to have a bit of fun and talk a little bit of fishing and get people to forget about all the bullshit that's going on in social media at the moment. And, let's just keep it all positive and let's see how we go. But listen, you've been in the industry a long time. For those guys that don't know you, started work as a casual, I believe, at Complete Angler. Which Complete Angler did you start at?
I was actually working at all 5 of the stores in Melbourne at the time. I floated around, so when the full-timers had their day off, I went and sat in that store and did their work, and then went to the next store the next day as another full-timer had their time off. So yeah. I got to visit all of the stores from Melbourne, Ringwood, Box Hill at the time, Dandenong, and it was Moorabbin, which is, they've all changed a little bit now, but yeah, way back then, that's what it was.
what a great start, and anyone that's out there, all these young guys that are out there that want to, get involved in fishing. There's nothing wrong with doing a few casual hours at your local tackle shop because you'll learn so much from that. You went on to then sub-editor at Freshwater Fishing Magazine. Now, I'll tell you, my dad is a big he's bought every issue or been involved in every issue, and he's got a box in his garage that has every issue of Freshwater Fishing Magazine in pristine condition. What's that worth?
Oh, it's almost uncountable. Even when I was working there, when's that? 1994, 5, something like that. A long time ago now.
Yeah.
They had no original 1, 2s, or 3s. So,
yeah. Yeah.
And very limited up to about 15, issue 15. So anything that's free the first two years or first 3 years of the place, they're worth a fair bit of money if you've got them pristine condition. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, he packed them away, and he's been doing it his whole life. Every month it comes, he reads it once, and she goes in the box into storage. So
it was my Bible when I was getting right into the fishing.
Yep.
Fred Jobson on the Murray and Ray Broughton at Mulwala and all that sort of stuff. They were the guys that just inspired me so much. It was great to read that stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm a big reader of the myself. Now, you were editor of Fishing Monthly Group.
Yep.
And then you went on to your current role, marketing manager at Wilson Fishing. So you have got a wealth of experience in the fishing industry, not just Murray Cod, but we'll see how the questions come through tonight for the Murray Cod side of things. I know you put a comment on your personal social media about your brim fishing techniques, and don't worry, I'm exactly the same.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They're a good fish brim, but you can still catch them on a 1-0 hook and a bit of mullet gut. So
yeah, excellent. So what I want to talk about, I suppose, is Rick Doyle contacted me during the week after me putting the shout out for people to help out with this show, and he's actually come up with a really good idea, as Rick always does. He's always thinking about other people, and what he's done this week is gone and picked up a whole heap of lures and gift vouchers and that from little tackle suppliers and little shops and friends of his, and actually purchased them, used his own money to purchase these prizes for us to give away on the show. So I'll just bring up Rick here, and this is Rick's no slouch. That's him there with a photo with Ruben, his son. They won the Cod Nationals a few years back. He's no slouch when it comes to cod fishing, absolute guru in the main bay, where I believe you're the guru in the backwater. So we should also get Rick on one night to talk about Mulwala, I reckon.
You should get the Doyles. Both of them are absolute A-graders, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we love them because they're great people. Rick's, as I said, gone out and bought all these prizes. Now, he heard me ask for some help and some sponsorship, and the first thing he thought about was how these local tackle shops are going to struggle a little bit in the times when, here in Victoria, we're not actually allowed to go fishing. So, social distancing and all the other bullshit that goes with it. He's come up with a plan, and I think it's a great one. So basically, if you normally spend $50 or $100 a week on fishing gear, times are tough. We understand that, but still try and spend a little bit, even if it's only $10 at your local shop or your local chandlery, and still go out and buy them. But you've got to understand that these smaller tackle shops, they supply, niche market stuff as well. They don't just supply all the big name stuff. So they've got their own little niche market, but they can't afford to set up a website, and some of them can't afford to set up this whole online thing, and you've got to have all this stock in that the accountant always tells you not to have. So, get on the Odie Cologne and ring the store. Most of them are open for a shorter period of time. You can ring them, and then you can shoot around and pick it up, or they can post it out, because, it's all easy to click and buy all this stuff, but we really need to support these local guys.
Yeah, the local shops are the heart and soul. I think every time I manage to get down to country Victoria or out west in New South Wales, visiting those smaller town tackle shops, I just love it. There's so much unique, as you said, niche stuff to that area that you just don't see anywhere else. So it's a little bit harder now to just go in and browse around and have a look, but by all means, look after those guys, because they are the guys who support the local the local fishing comps. The little ones that have got 20 or 30 local people in the fishing club, they're the guys that put their hand in their pockets. So now's the time for us to look after them a little bit as well, I reckon.
Yeah, I believe that, there's nothing wrong from buying for the big guys. There's some big guys out there with huge websites and everything else. Yeah, spend your $750 bonus, but just make sure that you're looking after that local guy. Give him a ring. Don't just click, click, click. That's just my gripe for today, and I'll try and keep it all positive from here.
Yeah, positive's good at the moment. Let's have.
Yeah, let's keep it on the positive. So I was able to get in contact with a few people. Now, you're a very hard man to find somebody to tell me a story about you that's in somewhat a negative vein. You seem to be Mr. Nice Guy of the industry.
Oh, we try. Well, nah.
No, you just hide it very well.
Yeah, just hide. Well, I mean, working in the magazines, you just needed to get along with everyone. And in all honesty, I'd rather get along with everyone and get the job done than go the other way about it. Even now at Wilson's, like, I know we compete hard against the other guys, but we're all in the one industry. And right now, I mean, it's talking a little negative again, but right now we need to all be friends again and work towards making sure we've got a future. So it's I've never really been one for bagging people out or picking apart stuff and that sort of business. It's not my game. I'd rather talk about the positives, give everyone a chance. Someone's got something good, it's good. Like, it's as simple as that. Just because they're not sponsoring you or whatever, it doesn't mean it's not good. It's still good. So yeah, just keep it all positive and say good things about people.
No, totally agree. And as I said, I was able to contact a couple, and they really had nothing bad to say. We had to pry a little bit out of them. Now I'm going to bring them both up on the screen here. You probably can't see them. They'll come up on your computer beside you in a minute. But we've got Greg Livingston and Tony Bennett here that have both had something to say. Now, you'll have to answer some questions after this. So what I'll do is I'll just get you to watch your computer screen, and we will. I'll play Tony first.
Righto.
G'day there, in lockdown, stuck in the shed, but been given the honour of us to give Boothie a bit of a bake for this series Corey's doing. Great stuff,
We've
Corey.
got a bit of a delay this time.
On Boothie
That's okay.
himself, been around for a long time in the Australian fishing scene. He was ahead of the game. All these young punks, what they're doing now,
Right,
Boothie was doing that
starting
stuff
now.
30 years ago with the Adam Reuters, your Brad Sissons, Mark Ainsworth, Dirk Wentz. So he has been ahead of the game. Super effort, Boothie. Nothing too nasty to say about you. Actually, nothing nasty at all. But all I can say is his first proper Mulwala meatery. These other ones don't count. You go to Cope and stuff like that. They're just fish. Mulwala, the place to catch a cod, was caught with a lovely lady behind the camera, VB. Cod Nationals, a couple of years ago, 102. So it took a lady to guide Boothie onto his first meatery. But anyway, mate, what you're doing in the fishing world's great, especially for the Australian fishing scene. You're ahead of the rest. The support you give everyone, especially the cod scene. Keep up the great work and look forward to what comes out of this.
So there you go. So we've got to talk about the lady behind the camera there, VB. Apparently she got you onto your first meatery.
That's it. It was day 2, actually. What was that, 3 years ago now? So, yeah, we pretty much ran out of ideas on spinnerbait day. And we were just dawdling along, and she said, we'll go over here. We've got a few people onto some surface meateries over here. And I was just being led by the nose down in that bottom third of the lake, which I'm not the best at. And, sure enough, went over this little ledge into a little bit of a dip in the water, and bang, there it goes. So yeah, up comes a meter of cod. When it hit, I knew it was a good fish, and I saw a roll, and I thought, that's 80 or something. But when it came up to be netted, yeah, I knew it was pretty close. And I literally sat down for about 15 minutes and just said to VB, I said, I'm sorry, VB, I've wrecked the comp for us. I can't fish for 15 minutes. I'm ecstatic. The comp means nothing right at this minute in my life. So yeah, it was really exciting. So,
It's an amazing thing when you crack your first metre, isn't it?
yeah, it is. It is. That wasn't actually my first metre, but my first metre at Mulwala. And like I've fished Mulwala since 17 years old, so a long time. And yeah, and it's taken that long for me to catch one. It was magic. And yeah, all credit to VB. She found us the spot. Um, the only thing she didn't choose was my lure, and she netted the fish first go, no mucking around, straight in, did it perfectly. So good on VB. I can't say it too much, but yeah, I probably owe a fair bit for that one.
No, that's all good. Now, the other guy here is a close mate of yours. He wants to just give you a little bit, and he's got a couple of questions for you as well. So what I'll do is I will play his. You'll obviously have to listen to that on yours, and we'll get back to you. We'll have a better 10-second delay.
Yep.
Close mate of yours.
Rightio, Stephen Booth. A story about Stephen Booth. Okay, the best one I can come up with. We're up at Mondrian. We both got our PB barrow. I got a 116, he got a 117. We had a break the meter mark bottle of port. We shared that. Boothie might have been feeling a little bit happier after having like 3 sips of port. We're jumping off the roof of the houseboat, and then Boothie decides to do an aquabirth and try and push it towards me. So I got this picnic bar coming like this, and I duck dived, and he thought it was hilarious. But anyway, I'm going to get you back. I want you to explain to all the viewers how good you are at removing ticks from very particular areas. And Mark Ainsworth, you're involved in this too. So anyway, enjoy that, Boothie. I look forward to seeing how you explain that. And I better pull this up short because I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about how good you are. Anyway, Boothie, love you like a brother, and you're not very good at cod. Right. I look forward to seeing how you explain that. And I better pull this up short because I'm sure you've got a lot to talk about how good you are. Anyway, Boothie, love you like a brother, and you're not very good at cod.
So first things first, please explain what an aquabirth is.
Are we G-rated or?
No, we'll leave that one alone, just in case. I know my 10-year-old son, he's going to ask me that later on, so I'll leave that to me to explain to him. And second of all, please tell us about this tick. What's Greg talking about?
Oh, well, my best mate Ainsy, who I fish most of my time with at Mulwala, we did a lot of walking and fishing when we were younger. He had a job in New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service down at Murray, and we went to a place called Nadji National Park, which is really, really hard to get to now. You used to be able to drive pretty much right in there. So we've driven in as far as we could, walked for about 6 hours to this survival hut, and the place is loaded with paralysis ticks, so I found out. So every night we had to check ourselves for ticks. We basically strip down to our jocks and check each other's backs and back of the legs and that sort of stuff. And then we'd check our private parts ourselves. And Ainsley's basically, checking his private parts, and he's gone, I reckon. And I've gone, no. So, he had a tick right next to his freckle. So, imagine 2 20-year-old blokes in a survival hut down on the south coast of New South Wales, miles from anywhere. One guy bent over a bench with his pants down, another guy behind him with a head torch on, pair of tweezers, and peeling back one of his cheeks and extracting the chip. It was, I don't know why I told anyone.
That is gold. I mean, you would have hated to be the next person to walk into that survival hut, I can tell you.
Absolutely, but that's the story that I run past Ainsley's girlfriends when I first meet them. I said, if you can handle this, you got to understand the history.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can handle that, then you're okay.
Excellent. They're good times. Listen, they're great times that you were able to have a bit of a laugh at a situation like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was laugh or cry because it wasn't very comforting for two 20-year-old heterosexual males who were a little bit, yeah.
Since Crick sent that through to me, I've been so interested to find out. I've been sitting on that all week, pardon the pun, but we'll see how we go. Look, we've got to announce the prizes tonight so we can get some questions up. As I said, Ricky Doyle from Jones Doyle Plumbing locally here. So we've got a local prize. So for anyone that's from basically the Albury-Wodonga, anywhere that can get to Albury-Wodonga, and spend a little bit of money locally, we have the first prize here. Where am I going to hold it up? Here is a voucher for Lee Martin Marine. So that can go towards anything at Lee Martin Marine, some boat repairs, your next service, whatever. There's values in there. I'm not going to give them away. They're quite substantial. And a McGrath vibe. So that's going to be given away to somebody local. So I know we're got viewers from all over the place. Make sure you write in a post where you're from so we know that we can give away this particular prize to a local, and the other 3 prizes will be given away to the 3 best questions throughout the night. And I will choose them at the end this time because we had a lot of questions later in the show that we'd love to have given away a prize for, and we'll go from there. But the third prize will be a McGrath Surface Walker and a McGrath Vibe. So that there is going to be the third prize. The second prize will be the same thing, but different colour. So we've got a Surface Walker from McGrath and a golden orange Vibe. So some really good colours that McGrath supplied us for these ones. And for the best question of the night, the one that wins gets a triple pack. So that'll be a cod spinnerbait, of course, in purple because everyone loves purple. We've got the purple Surface Walker, and I had to count that, and a 5-pack of Vibes. So really good value prizes that Ricky's donated for us tonight, and we will be sending them out to somebody with a really, really good question. And I'm just reading some of the stuff that's coming up. Chris Parker's straight up claimed Brokeback Mountain. So that's pretty fair. So look, get those questions rolling. In the meantime, let's pick your brains and let's talk about Mulwala.
Yep.
You have won comps on Mulwala, but you also go there socially. Am I true in saying it's your favourite dam to go to in Australia if you're fishing for cod?
It's favourite place regardless of what I'm fishing for. Yeah, if I have a week, I'm going to Mulwala every time.
Tell us, because Mulwala's a bit of a unique beast. I do believe that the water supply, apart from when they draw it down to kill the weed, apart from that, the water supply sits at above that sort of 90%. So it's one of the only waterways I can think of in Australia that has that constant water. So you can go back the next time and still be in the same water levels. The water levels don't go up and down like the big Queensland dams and that I'm used to fishing up there. So, yeah, tell us about, Mulwala and why you love that.
So Mulwala for me, originally it was about catching the cod in the yellow belly, but I think nowadays it's more about the people I know and the people I meet, the people I fish with. Mulwala has some extraordinary fishing. It has its challenges. I love the challenge. I can go cod fishing for 5 days at Mulwala, and I'm okay if we catch 1 or 2 cod a day. Whereas if I go flathead fishing out here at home, and if I don't catch 20 flathead in 3 hours, I'm thinking it's a pretty crappy day. So I love the challenge of it all. They're a beast that are really hard to get a handle on, and bite times and bite windows and when that occurs and how to go about it. So always learning, 30 odd years fishing it, and still learning. The cod nats about a month ago, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Thomas Pinter and his old man Steve taught me heaps without them even knowing they taught me heaps. So always learning, and as long as you're learning, it keeps it interesting.
Yes, well, Thomas has actually posted today, I believe, the actual video from the Nationals. So I'm so keen to get on there and watch that. I haven't actually had a view of it today. I haven't got the links or anything to share, but I'm really interested in seeing how they were just a mile above everyone else, weren't they?
Yeah, there was those guys, and then there was two Corriwell boys, or Corriwell and an Albury guy, brothers Ian and Matt Rogers, who were neck and neck pretty much to the last day. And then, Steve and Thomas just killed it in the last afternoon of the tournament. Got 3 or 4 legal fish and just blew the field away. It was, just epic. It was really, really good. It was good to see someone who worked hard and had a plan and stuck to it, and it all came together. It was really, really good. And like I said, I learned a heap from how they went about it. It was really good.
Excellent. And, you can never write off the Rogers boys. I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah, well, hopefully they don't get involved in this conversation too much, because it's not going to end well for me. But yeah, they're guns. Yeah, they're past winners of the comp, and I think anyone who's won the Cod Nats is bloody good at Mulwala. So they're worth listening to, even if you only pick up 1 or 2 bits of information from them. They're going to be 1 or 2 gems to fish the lake. So.
Excellent. We've got some really good questions coming in. Actually, one from last week's guest. We've got Matty Langford's given us a question here, and his question is, what are your thoughts on fishing dirty water for cod?
Well, it's interesting, that question, because at Mulwala, let's talk about just Mulwala, during the Nats there was a big slug of dirty water. We had that rain about a week and a half before the comp, and it all come down the Murray and through all the little tributaries and down the ovens. And Ian and Matt Rogers, or Painter and Spider, I'll call them, which are their nicknames most people know them by.
Yep.
Fished up in the dirty water really well. We went up there and struggled. We got 1 fish in the dirty water, found a pocket of clean water in amongst all the dirty water, and got 2 fish. So, I don't have a problem with flow and increasing flow, and I think the fish know when that water's about to come, and they'll feed up. But yeah, that dirty water certainly made it really, really hard. So just had to be better and closer with your casts.
Do you break it down to that as an example that you're saying the casts have to be within inches rather than say a foot from where you want it to be?
Yeah. Also, the water during the comp was. We could see it was like fishing the lower Murray, which I've done quite a bit of when I was growing up, where you put your hand in the water, and once you get down to your wrist, you can't see your fingers.
Yeah,
it was proper dirty. So the fish, they'll hunt by vibration, but you're not going to get those fish that in, say, a clean water situation, when they might just react to that lure. If they see it go past them 2 or 3 times, it might just be that reaction bite. I don't think you get that reaction bite. You really got to nail it properly.
Yeah.
I think Painter and Spider were good at that. Certainly Thomas and his dad, Steve, were really good at that. They presented lures really, really meticulously and made sure they had the right cast. And if they didn't have the right cast, they wound it in on the top, keeping it above and away from the fish, not to spook it, and went again. So,
very good point.
Yeah, I think it was my approach normally is, we'll have 3, maybe 4 casts each, so we get 6 or 8 casts at a snag, and get for that reaction bite. But yeah, that dirty water meant that you had to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more meticulous. So. That's my take home from the cod nats was, can fish in dirty water, messes with your head, absolutely, but just be better. Just be better at casting, better at retrieving, make sure you're doing the right stuff.
Excellent. And now we're in this little bit of a layoff. There's nothing wrong with getting in the backyard, putting a bucket out there and practicing those casts. You could do it for hours on end.
Absolutely. And, when we were young, with Adam Reuter, I had the fortune or misfortune to live with Adam for a couple of years, depending on which way you look at it. And we did that pretty much every night out in the backyard, just casting at targets to get better and better and better. And Adam taught me a lot about how to cast better, and he's still doing that from his base in New Zealand. Teaching people with videos how to do things better. So it's all practice. It always is about practice.
Awesome. Now we've got another, or these questions are good because they're the questions I was going to ask you anyway, because any advantage I can get would be good. Now we've got Bo. Now, Bo, I apologise if I get your last name wrong. I think it's Everly. So he said, if there was only one lure you could use for cod, what would it be and why that lure?
I'm going to answer with two lures. Which probably doesn't help Bo a lot. My favourite lure, which I've actually got here, is that one, that's a number 2 stump jumper in purple. That one's called Winky because he's missing an eye. So he's got no eye on this side and one eye on that, so it's called Winky. That's caught the most fish for me at Mulwala out of any other lure I own. But if I had to go cod fishing in Mulwala and catch a fish, and it was just a cod, I'd get one of Glenn's Bassman's in colour number 7 and have it with either a double willow blade probably, so I could get a little bit more depth.
Yep. So let's go in. Let's nut that one down a little bit more, because a lot of people get confused by the humble old spinnerbait. There's a lot more to them, and week 4's guest is going to be Glenn Casey, and we're going to nut out a little bit more. But you said a double willow blade.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of conversations with Glenn over the years. He and Ainsey were basically beating me over the head with spinnerbaits, trying to make me change from using hard body lures. It took them quite a little while. It wasn't until I started fishing some of the tournaments. And Ainsey and I have kept records pretty much for 30 years on what we've caught. And all those records show that we catch twice as many cod on spinnerbaits as we do on hard-bodied lures over 30 years. So that was significant enough for me, say, in the Freshwater Masters, when we went down there for the Mulwala League, to just fish a spinnerbait. And, I like Glenn's Bassman spinnerbaits because I've known Glenn for 20 years, and he's a good knock-around bloke, and, just help out him. So the double willow came about because we fished the edge of the river a bit, and you can actually wind it fairly fast in the shallow water and keep it up.
Yep.
Or you can let it sink down, wind it a little bit slower, and it gets a bit deeper on that edge water on the river. So it gives you probably more options, or the way I fish gives me more options than, say, a double Colorado blade setup, which requires a lot more patience, slowing right down if you're fishing deeper. Whereas that double Colorado, if I was just fishing 5 foot or 6 foot of water, I'd use that every time. But if I was taking a lure, a spinnerbait to Mulwala, it'd be a double willow, or a single willow for that matter. So willow bladed to keep it the ability to go deep without having to go far down.
Yep. So, Bo, that's an awesome question. So, hopefully you've got an idea there. Number 2 stump jumper, and it's in everyone's kit that knows about cod fishing, and obviously a spinnerbait. So, spinnerbaits have always amazed me that they to look at them, and when they first come out, what do they represent in the water? Well, who really knows? It's just something different, but they work. They're just so easy to use if you don't get too complicated with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's as silly as it sounds, it's a chuck and wind lure. And I've found most of the successful lures over the last 20 or 30 years have been chuck and wind lures. Without trying to sound like I'm calling people dumb, but they're dumb angling lures, because you can just chuck it out and wind it in.
That's why I love them.
Yeah, that's why I love them, absolutely. I like aggressive fish that haven't been fished and simple lures to use. If I have to work too hard, it just gets all too confusing. But, like a Jackal TN60, when that came out, people chucked it and wound it in.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they've got 100 different lure retrieves for a TN60 and for soft vibes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Same with baits, but if you're just starting, you can literally throw it out, let it sink down to a depth and wind it in, and it'll catch fish. And that's what makes really successful lures really successful, because you do not need to have an immense backlog of skill and talent and techniques to catch fish on them.
Yeah, and Bo has actually also thrown in another question straight underneath a plus what colour. I think you've just given that away, showing that Stumpy that you like purple in the stump jumper.
Purple, but the colour 7 for the Bassman is actually an olive, and I'll just duck out of screen for a sec. I can show you. Lucky I've got this one here. This one got 1.6 for me at cod opening a couple of years ago. So that's colour 7 there. So it's just a drab olive natural looking one. We're fishing shallow. That's got 2 Colorado blades at one. So yeah, so that one got 1.6 at Mulwala right there.
So there you go, Bo. Just get on to your local tackle shop and order yourself a colour 7 Bassman. That's really cool. Thanks for that, giving those hints away. So we've got some really good questions coming through here. Let's throw up Shane's question. And Shane has said, what was better, your first meet of cod or the 2017 grand final?
First meet of cod.
I have to say that there's a little bit of a stitch up from Shane there, because you are a Tigers supporter, I take it.
Yep, absolutely. And it was epic watching the grand final, but I can tell you that I was breathing fairly heavily with adrenaline pumping through the veins with the first metery. So yeah, first metery cod probably better. I'm glad he didn't ask what was better, birth of my child or first metery. But see, being a Tiger supporter, and I'll be a typical Tiger supporter, it's too easy now. You win one every couple of years. It's not that hard. So metery cod just don't come around that easy for me. So you still have to work too hard for them.
No, well, that's it. And we tend to get a little bit tied up with social media has made it very, very hard, because all you see is big fish all of the time with big photos. Yep. But you don't hear the story of how long it's taken, or they've set that whole week up to catch that one big fish. I know I do a week's trip to Copeton every year, and sometimes we crack the metery and sometimes we don't. But we're doing 12 hours on the water every day to try and catch that one metery in 7 days of fishing. It's not easy. No,
it's not easy, and it shouldn't be. You know, that's a big old fish, and it's been through a lot of life, and you have to trick it into eating something it's probably not used to eating. But at Mulwala, and I've said it for forever, I reckon, since I fished Mulwala, my mark in Mulwala is 80 centimetres. I reckon anything above 80 is a really, really good Mulwala fish.
Yep.
And if you get a meter in, there's a couple of guys I know who are getting really, really good at swim baiting there, who are cracked onto some good codes for meteries in the cooler months. That's about as regular as I've seen. Most ones tend to be incidental.
Yeah, but I've always looked at Mulwala. I caught as an 18-year-old when I first got my license, and I could drive myself. I drove up to Mulwala, fished off the bank, and I caught my first cod there. And it started a lifelong obsession with the dam. I spent too long in Queensland away from it, and now that I've moved back, it's like I want to be over there every weekend.
Yep.
But it's a dam where at different times of the years you can fish for pure numbers, and you can have. We talked about bass sessions when you're happy getting 20 in a session. Well, I've had cod sessions on Mulwala where I've got 20 in a session. No big ones, but you can just hone those little fish out, can't you?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. And Mulwala is a lot like that. If you go fishing, it's a bit of unfortunate timing, but right now, if I could go anywhere in Australia, I'd go to Mulwala right now.
Yeah.
April, May for me. By far the best months to fish Mulwala for fish numbers. You'll also get your yellow bellies as well. So there's always something happening. If the cod are a bit quiet, the yellows will get on the chew. If the yellows are a bit quiet, the cod are on the chew. So, and the days aren't terribly long like they are in summer, and they're not terribly hot. And I just love April, May at Mulwala. It's fantastic.
It is, and the weather's good. You can finally start lighting a fire and sitting around the campfire of a night time on the river and that sort of thing. That's always good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the whole experience of it. Camping out. When we go, we launch our boat upstream at Bundalong and drive down and basically boat everything into our camping spot. So absolutely no power, no nothing. We're just camping and fishing and getting away from the whole social media thing.
That's good. That's good. We've got another question here. I'll pop this one up on the screen. Sean has said, what are the key factors you think come into play when you're chasing big cod?
Okay, so let's talk Mulwala. For chasing big cod, I definitely think you need to be looking for a roof over their head. So by that, you're looking at a laydown or a horizontal structure. All the fish I've seen 80 plus have been there or thereabouts on horizontal structure. There's not too many that have come off standalone stumps. So that's the big thing I'd look for. Always looking for current flow in Mulwala. So if you look at the lake, there's plenty of turns in the main river, and where that sharp turn is that goes onto up onto a flat, you can follow that flow up onto the flat.
Yep.
So I tend to look for flats that have that sharp turn in the main river, which means the flat's got flow going over the top of it. Now, in the peak of summer in January, February, when you've got a normal irrigation season, the whole lake flows, so it's pretty easy to find current flow. But when you get that April, May time, everything's slowing down a little bit. There are certain channels and certain places where the current flows, and that'll always fish better for your bigger fish. And then it's not so much. I mean, I've got a milk run of places that I'll fish, but always looking for bird activity as well, which will normally indicate that there's bait fish around. So
I know.
And there's normally fish there.
Yeah, I know the bass guys are really, shag tree, looking for that wildlife. But you talk about the flow in Mulwala now. One thing that it does change, doesn't it, is, as you said, that irrigation season when they're opening the gates and you get flow everywhere. Yep. But do you find as the weed grows, the flow changes?
Yeah, well, the weeds actually, I reckon the weeds probably a last 6 or 8 year phenomenon. So especially that Alodia stuff, that aquarium weed that someone's done the right thing and let go in the lake. Because it used to be all beautiful strapweed and like that native strapweed, which was just awesome to fish. But it certainly changes the flow dynamics. All that weed, you go over to some of the flats, say near ski lands and those sort of places, when the weed is really heavy, and it just stops the flow dead in its tracks. All the silt drops out of it, and those areas around there and down towards Kiffins and all those sort of places tend to clear right up and be crystal clear. So guys are basically seeing big fish cruising in the channels of the weed. So it's the weed changes it for sure, and that's one of the games where Painter and Spider are really good in the weed, and they've taught me a heap about fishing the weed and how they go about it. And again, they're looking for that horizontal structure. So, that horizontal structure basically creates a channel in the weed where the fish can hunt, and it can lie underneath the horizontal structure for safety when it's not feeding. If it wants to go out hunting, it can just cruise along the open channel that's been created by the laydown. So, there's a lot to it. And then, throw in a bit of current with that, and you're starting to look at a really good hotspot. Yeah,
and the first year I come down for the Nationals, we come down from Queensland. We didn't have a pre-fish, and we found some really good spots, and I marked them on the GPS, and I had everything going. And then the next year I come down, they'd killed off the weed. And do you think I could find flow? I was I was just blown. I spent half a day looking for flow. I just couldn't find any, not knowing the dam. That's where guys like yourself that have been out there have that information is just mind-blowing. You said before that you actually run a diary for anybody that's out there that's getting into fishing. There is one of the best things you can do. All the top guys have been running them. Collect your diary and your information because you can always refer back to it.
Absolutely, and it firms up. If you have an idea, those campfires that we're talking about at this time of year, you sit around and you make up 100,000 reasons why the fish bit or why they didn't bite. And if you've got that history, you can go back on and look. You can actually start to qualify some of your reasoning.
Yeah.
And once you've started going down that road, then all of a sudden you're becoming a better angler just because you're thinking about what you're doing more.
Yeah, and that's a question later on down, but we'll get to that. Thank you, Sean, for that question. Let's go on to the next one here. Ricky has sent through, Ricky Goward. What is your strategy when you fish Lake Mulwala when the fishing is tough?
Tough it out. It's as simple as that. When Mulwala's tough, it's a real nasty mistress, that's for sure. To give you an example, like I reckon I'm probably okay at Mulwala most times. At the Nats this year, on hard body day 2, I didn't get a bite all day. So not one single bite, didn't even look like it, never felt like it. Luckily Banksy, who I was fishing with, got a couple and got us some points for the day, but yeah, I was nowhere. So it's real, and the whole Nats this year was toughing it out. So
just keep casting.
Yeah, just keep going, keep working it. I think the way that, again, Thomas and Steve fished, and I'm desperately keen to see that video as well, how Thomas went about it. In a tough bite, they had worked out the key to success. So, and it was being very careful and very meticulous. So, yeah, so I think if it is a tough day, you can wait for the bite period, which will come, and there will be a bite period, and there is every day. Or you can be far more meticulous and far more planned with what you do. So,
yeah, and that's why I think the Nationals is so much harder to win, and the guys that do well each year, there's no real cracker code like you can get with other comps because you've got to use certain lures on certain days or certain styles of lures. And I talked, like when I went back from the first Nationals that I'd fished and went back to Queensland and told some of the bass guys, they're saying, well, how stupid's that? If you worked out a code, you can't win the comp. But that's the thing. The Nationals is hard. And you have your any lure day, you have your spinnerbait day, and then you have your what's the third one? Your hard body. So you've got to use a certain lure. And if you're not confident in that particular lure, that day can be a real drag. And that's such a good question,
Yeah, and it is. And that's the beauty of the Nats. It teaches you to tough it out. I've had a lot of chats with Tony and about the Nats and the results, and he said there are normally 2 bite periods where he gets really, really busy with results. So even on toughest days, there are little 1-hour spikes during the day where you need to make hay while the sun's shining. So yeah, tough it out. Try not to travel. If you know the area is good, if it's got current, if it's got good structure, if it's got a bit of weed, if there's bait there, there's fish there. Sometimes they're just not biting. So don't think that you have to go and drive 10 k's up the lake or 10 k's down the lake or go across 2 channels to get to the 3rd channel over there. It's probably not necessary. The fish are there, they're just maybe not biting. So be better at your presentations, be more meticulous, or just tough it out.
Yep. No, good. Got another question here from Tracy Brown. She said, how different are dam cod and river cod to catch?
Righto, so to do this, I class Mulwala, even though it is a dam and a lake, it's probably fishes more like a river. And let's say Copeton's more of a dam because it is actually a true dam. Still water fish are much tougher. I find much tougher to catch because they don't tend to locate in particular places. In my whaler, I'm always looking for that current flow, and I think an active fish, which is I tend to try and target active fish, will sit pretty much in the front of the snag where the little current buoy hits up. There's a little bit of dead water in front of the snag, and real active fish sit in front of that. So when we're fishing Mulwala, which let's call that the river part of it, our first casts are always to the upstream side of a snag rather than to the eddy boil behind the snag. I mean, we will fish that on the way past it, but yeah, it's always a race to be the lure that goes first in front of the snag. So, whereas in a lake, I tend to think that active feeding fish are roaming fish. If you look at Copeden, I was fortunate enough that I've fished it with Josh Usher a little bit, and he knows that place inside out. Again, he's looking for bait fish. He's looking for flicking fish on banks. He's looking for pelicans and stuff on the bank. So he's looking for those fish that are roaming those flats, actively hunting. So yeah, so that's probably the difference, is that in a lake you tend to be hunting roaming fish if you're looking for those really big ones. In a river situation or Mulwala, you can actually, the fish will locate on a snag and have a prime feeding position, I suppose is the best way to say it. So yeah, so that's the big difference I find.
Yeah. Do you find, over your, mega long experience on Mulwala, that if you go back to a certain area, does it have to be the certain time of year, or does just that area hold fish because of the flow?
Yeah, there's we've got snags that hold 60 centimetre fish. We've got areas that have a good head of 60 centimetre fish at this time of year, but in December, when the fish are coming back from spawning, there's 80, 90 centimetre fish in there quite regularly. So yeah, it does change, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there are areas that, regardless of the time of year, it's always that sort of 58 to 70 centimetre fish that are living in that area. So, but certain areas, yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Great question, Tracy. Let's go on to the next one. We'll go Stephen Bounds has asked. I'll bring that up on the screen. Do you personally think barometric pressure and moon phase play a major part in cod fishing?
Yes, and kind of. There you go. So barometric pressure causes wind, and wind absolutely plays part in cod fishing. So I'm Roger Miles, who used to run cod hunter fishing tours on Mulwala. Grew up with fishing with him when we were real young. And he always said, don't ever be afraid of the wind, because the wind meant that the barometer was changing, and that changing barometer is a switch for the fish. I've spent a lot of time talking to Rod McKenzie about this, and he's a bit like me, that he would rather have the barometer changing, and the sharper that change, the better. So if you've got, it's the classic, you've got a storm front approaching, which is not super wise to fish on Mulwala with a storm front coming. But if you can time it, that hour just before that storm front hits, where the barometer goes from maybe 1,020 down to 930, and drops real quick, the fish just go nuts. So that's where we first sort of cottoned onto it. And then you're always dealing with wind at Mulwala, and Roger said, don't be afraid of the wind. It means the barometer's changing. It's good. That means the fish will be there or thereabouts. So I think the Freshwater Masters, not last year, the year before, it was way too windy. It was blowing 30, 40 knots. It was just frightening.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah, we found a spot to hide in, a backwater off a backwater off a backwater right up the Everglades part of the lake. That was the only place we could go that we could actually fish accurately. So yeah, barometric pressure, definitely. Key tip there is look for a change, I think. If it's been settled for those nice, beautiful, calm days, everyone loves being out in the lake. It looks good, but yeah, I think it's better when that barometer's changing. So if you can do that is good. Moon phases. If you talk to the Mulwala guys, they like a full moon fishing at night. If you talk to the Copeland guys, they like a dark moon fishing at night. So, there's two different things. I think the Mulwala people are probably looking for a full moon so they can see the 478 billion snags that are in there and not hit everything with their boat. But not so much moon phase for me. I think if I was fishing Copeland, I'm probably looking to go, new moon-ish. But, my time's fairly precious on the water, and I'm just going when I've got time to go most of the time with moon phases. So.
Yeah, we as I said, we do that regular 1 week at Copeland every year, and it's always planned the year before on the new moon, and that's when we all book our leave and all sort of meet from all over the country and meet at Copeland just to make it because that's what everyone's told us. So obviously, I'm doing something right.
Yeah, and it's a magic place to fish on that new moon, and I bet Mulwala would fish just as well. It's just a whole lot harder to get around when you can't see your hand a foot in front of your face.
Yeah.
So, that's the Mulwala comes with a completely different set of rules than Copeland. So
Sure does.
Yeah, a lot of people at the Nats, because it was on I think it was full moon, just the first day of the comp or the day before the comp, and a lot of people were complaining about that and the timing of it, because they think the fish feed at night more and sort of turn off during the day.
Yeah.
However, there's always somebody, and you'd know from tournament fishing, there's always somebody who works it out and proves that that's not actually the case. You're just doing stuff a little bit wrong.
Yep. Yeah, minute little things. And that brings me into the next question, which is a really good question from Glenn Casey, Mr. Bassman himself. So he's written here, and I want to dive into this a little bit more. We tend to get, as I said, caught up with the whole social media thing and see all these big fish. I know that every morning when I log into Facebook and I'm having my morning coffee, I have a scroll through and there's big fish, big fish, big fish, big fish. And you think, oh, what am I doing wrong? I'm not catching big fish. But, it takes us a long time to catch that first big fish. And some people haven't even caught their first cod. So how long did it take you to catch your first meatery?
27 years. So this is a short answer. So it took me a long time. I've known Rod and Glenn for a little while, and they've both said, come down to Murray, when it was fishing really, really well. And we'll get you onto a meatery. But I was stubbornly going, no, I really want my first meatery to come from Mulwala. It would have meant a lot to me. First meatery came from Copeland, which was just, almost following the crowds a little bit, I suppose. But 27 years, and it was something Rod said to me, drummed it into my head for 5 years. He said, make sure you go where big fish are if you want to catch big fish. He said, Mulwala at the time, the last 20 years, didn't have a massive big head of big fish. Yeah, sure, there were big fish in there, but, then we didn't have the techniques for the big fish or the tackle and all that sort of stuff. 27 years at Copeland, second trip to Copeland. But that was, we got 4 meateries that, I only got one, but the two blokes I was with, we got 4 between us in 3 nights. So it was pretty cool.
Excellent. Now, I will hide that one and get the next one up, because this is one that I was going to ask tonight as well, from Stephen. He's right. What are your thoughts on fishing, on fish sitting suspended in the lake? Because I know that we catch a lot of suspended fish at Cope and Glen Lyon and dams like that, but I've never targeted those suspended fish at Mulwala.
No, I reckon if you're fishing the bottom third of the lake, there's a lot of work to be done down there, especially with swim baits and the like, and weedless presentations to some of the snag humps and stuff that are down, towards the swimming pool areas and towards the ski club and all that sort of stuff. So, I think it can happen. We, on our boat, last time I was there, had one of those Garmin LiveScope things on it.
Yep.
And we went down to the main road bridge, and had a look and just spotted up, 4 or 5 really big fish just suspended halfway down the pylons. So they are there. And we got one good cast away. We got some pretty ordinary casts away, but one good cast away, a little spinnerbait, and it went straight past its nose, and that fish took off at a rate of knots. So, I'm not sure those suspending fish are actually feeding.
Yep.
So if you can find suspending fish that are feeding in winter, when they've dropped the lake in the main river course, you can find schools of bony brims and shads and that sort of stuff, and you'll often see the cod on your sounder suspending around those, but they're actively hunting them. So that makes it much more like a Copeton fish.
Yeah, for sure. Now we've got Stephen's question will go away, and Jackson North has written, "What's your most used rod and reel combo and why?" Which leads into another question from one we had on last week, Calissa. She said bait caster or spin combo. So we'll combine those two questions together.
Right. So I'm a bait caster guy when I'm cod fishing. I find I cast more accurately with a bait caster. So that's why I use that. It also allows me to fish all day. I'm comfortable using it. So spin I tend to use in light line applications more so than heavy applications. My most used rod and reel combo, it's hard to say. My favourite one, and I'll preface this by saying I do work for Wilson's, so I do have access to all of their gear.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I use a Venom 6 kilo 7 foot bait caster. That's my favourite rod, and that's matched to one of our ATC bait casting reels. So that's what I use that for. 7 foot gives me extra casting distance. The 6 kilo rod, even though it says 6 kilo, we fish 40 pound braid over it. So yeah, it's got plenty of power to stop a big fish, yet still allows you to cast fairly lightish lures. It's great for mumbler type lures, great for spinnerbaits. And yeah, if I'm fishing hard bodies, I change rods. I go to a shorter rod, so a 6'3" type rod. So
excellent. Yep. So you believe 100%, and I do too, that you're more accurate with a bait cast. And when you're talking those tough times, landing that lure in the right spot, learn that bait caster. People ask me all the time, what should I buy and what brand should I buy? Well, we're all, somewhat sponsored or looked after or work for, or, we have our preference within the brands that we have. But I just say, go out and buy the best rod and reel that you can afford.
Yep.
Right? You don't have to go out and spend $1,000 on a combo. You can go out and spend $200. If that's all you can afford, that's what you buy.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get good at that. And once you've got good at that, take the next step. So the next one you might, but I found, I don't know if this is true, but I found after moving back from Queensland and fishing for bass, where I found the rod to be more important than the reel.
Yep.
When I come back to Victoria and talking to a lot of cod guys, they're willing to buy a cheap stick and a $1,000 reel, and I never understood that.
Yeah, I think with the bass, you tend to be casting lighter lures on average. So having the right stick to cast them is important. But then you need a good reel to cast light lures as well. With cod, your reel does a mountain of work. Like, it takes a lot of punishment just simply casting.
Yep.
The lures are bigger, everything's heavier. So, I'm with you. There are really good outfits from $300 for both, all the way up to $1,000 that you can get, and get the best you can. You won't regret it. I mean, everybody starts off with a really crappy bait caster that they use for 6 months, and just as soon as they put their hands on a good one, just go, what was I doing with that? And that's the guys at the Complete Angler, where I ended up working, did that to me when I was 16 or 17 with a Shimano Calcutta. They took me out the back, put it on a rod, said, you have a chuck of this. And I had a chuck of that, and for the next 3 months I was paying off a lay-by to buy that reel.
Yeah.
So I was going, this is a whole new world. So, yeah, but buy what you can. If you need to put it on lay-by or pay it off or save up or whatever you need to do, by all means do that. But you don't need to spend $1,000.
No, I agree.
Yeah, you don't. Certainly don't need to. And we fish the cod nats with, and shameless plug, with the new blade and tails rods that we're doing, which
Yep.
are $250 retail rods as opposed to the Venoms, which are $550. So just to try them out and see how they went, and they're fine. So,
and that's just buy the best that you can possibly afford, get good at it, and then go back and upgrade from there if you need to.
Yeah, if you think you really love it and you want to try better, absolutely. But see if you can grab your mates if he's got a better one and have a go at that first.
Yeah. No.
You don't need to be throwing out $800 on something that you might use once a year.
Or even book a charter, and go out with one of those guys and use their gear. I know Joshy and Matty and Graham Ford and all these guys that have these charter boats running on these freshwater waterways. They do use the top gear, so you can go out and try it that way.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a good way to learn how to use the gear as well.
Yeah,
which is, you can, what do they say? All the gear, no idea. There's plenty of times that can happen, but get to know how to cast, like you said. At the moment, go out the backyard and practice your bait casting skills.
Yeah, well, I tend to say that to myself after every comp, all the gear and no idea. But look, we've got a good question here from our close friend, Vanessa Bennett. She wants to know who your hero is.
Well, 3 years ago at the Cod Nats, it was VB. she was my hero for sure. Overall, if I was talking fishing heroes, it's undoubtedly Rex Hunt.
Yep.
Had an absolute profound impact on fishing, and he rose to prominence as I was just starting in the fishing industry, and he was good friends with Bill Klassen at Freshwater Fishing. So I was fortunate enough to meet him very early on, and then he loved Adam Reuter for some reason, probably because he was mad. We've always tend to have got along. Just one of those people with the X factor.
I have to say, like, you wouldn't have a Richmond connection there with old Rexy boy?
It might help that he played for Richmond and won grand finals. just a little bit.
I have to say that my little man crush, would be Rexy as well. I don't think that anyone, in my view, has done more for the fishing industry than Rex himself with the kissing them and letting them go.
Yeah, and just more than that, I mean, coming from Victoria originally, to see the profound impact he had on Victorian fishing, out of scallop dredging, with habitat, catch and release, and just because he had the power of the media behind him, like he just got stuff done.
Yeah,
and not that I'm saying it's all a legacy of Rex Hunt, but now Victoria is considered to have the best managed fishery in Australia by the Fisheries Authority. They do a wonderful job there stocking and making it easy for people to go fishing. So he's had a big impact. He one time he'd been in retirement for a few years, came to the AFTA, which is our trade show, the AFTA show on the Gold Coast. Had an opportunity to speak to the entire industry, and the entire industry after that for the next 2 weeks was just buzzing, going, "Yep, let's just sort this out." He just inspired people to do what needed to be done. So big impact, big man, big impact.
Yeah, no, love him. Would love to sit down and have a beer with Rex. He's on the beer list, or the bucket list, as you would call it. Now, I want to give away a prize before, we've been going for about an hour and this has just flown. It's been good fun. I want to give away a prize, and I'm going to do, what have we got? Bo Everly or Everly. You asked the question of if there was only one lure for your cod, can you please contact me through my Facebook page, and that is going to be your prize. You're going to get the McGrath Surface Walker and Vibe. So that's yours. Please get a hold of me through my Facebook page and send me a personal message with your address, and I'll get that posted out. And I've picked another question before we go on to we'll continue to chat. Just let me look here. Sean Swain. So that was your question as well, Sean. You get the same pack, which is this one here. So I'll send those ones out to you. Get the camera right for you guys. You've won those prizes. We've still got the 2 major prizes to go. But I've had a special visitor in the Studio 1 here at Wodonga. Come in here, mate. This is my son. This is Harrison. Say good day to everyone, Harrison.
Hello.
Hey,
That leads into my next question that I wanted to talk about in families and fishing. I know both of you, you're a big advocate for kids and fishing. I love to take fishing. Harry's actually caught a cod, so really proud of him. But today I caught Harry out in my little studio here pretending to be like Dad because he loves his YouTubers. So I'm his idol at the moment, even though we've got a small little thing happening here. He reckons it's great. I'll have that coffee, mate. Thanks.
Okay.
Right. So, yes, I love kids and fishing, and I love seeing kids out there fishing. You take your kids a lot. What are your kids like?
they're okay if we're catching stuff. So I think that's the trick with kids fishing is not to get carried away with what you want to achieve out of it. It's actually trying to make sure that the kids are getting something out of it. So, yeah, we'll go trolling for flathead just out, 800 metres from the boat ramp here. Within 50 metres we can have some lures out trolling for flatties and catching some flatties with the kids and just having fun. So, and that's what it is. And we'll stop and, pump some yabbies or let them run around on the sandbanks or slide down a sand hill on a piece of cardboard, stuff like that. So, I think when I'm taking the family out, it's not a fishing day that I'm dead serious about. It's about making sure that they try and have some fun and get something out of it. And hopefully they find a passion for fishing like I did.
Yeah, and I believe that with kids, we've got to make sure that they, 1, catch a fish, and 2, enjoy themselves, and 3, we're doing what they want to do, not what we want to do. Collecting the bait can be more fun than the fishing itself. You're dead right. I agree with that 100%. But, chase your bread and butter species. We can all go out there and want to have a week's holiday with cod and stuff like that. But I cut my teeth fishing for reddies, Lake Epilogue. Go out and catch, reddy after reddy after reddy, and that was got me started and got me into it. But chase your whiting, your flathead, whatever opportunity you get to get kids into fishing. The future generation, some of these young kids that are coming through in that 13 to sort of 17, 18-year-old age bracket are blowing me away with their knowledge. And, the old thing goes around on Facebook every year, more tackle boxes, less X boxes. And I just love to see kids on the water.
Yeah, it's great to see the kids on the water. It's embarrassing for us older people sometimes to see how good they are at it. But you have to have the next generation coming through. Without that next generation coming through, I certainly don't have a job. So, if everyone stopped fishing tomorrow, which, means that's it. I'm retired, so I have to find something else to do.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
But, it's not going to happen. But we really do need to take care of those kids and make sure that they're involved with the whole game that is fishing. That they are different, absolutely. It's a different generation from when I was growing up. But they still love it and they're really, really good at it and they're way more technical with everything than I will ever be.
Yeah, for sure. And the knowledge that they're getting. And the upsides of social media and that people are sharing, and you can get more information these days than what we ever could back in the day. You did have to wait until Freshwater Fishing Magazine come out, and then you'd be able to see what the new lure is or whatnot. But as you said, you've got 2 favourites there that you can't even buy anymore, or you can buy the Bass Man, but, the old stump jumper in that particular colour has probably been upgraded 5 or 6 times since then, and it's a different stripe or a different eye and, whatever it is. But, yeah, we tend to need to do these things. Yeah,
absolutely. And, it's that they'll show you the way. They'll show you what they want to do, which is fantastic. I enjoy sometimes with my daughter, she's desperate to catch a cod last time we were at Mulwala. And she didn't catch one, but, man, she was chucking a bait caster, just having an absolute ball. And do you want to stop? No, I'm going until I catch a fish. It was it was really good. We were running it on her time schedule, and she just didn't want to give up until she caught one. So
Yeah, and that's good. You need them to do that.
yeah, definitely. It's a good thing taking your family out, and when she catches that cod, which she hasn't yet, but when she does, I hope I'm there to see it.
Yeah, moments like that, you just can't. Harry caught his first cod last year, and he's gone on. Have you caught three now? Three cod now, or is it just the two?
I think it's two.
Two cod now, and we went out last year as well, and for the first time in many years, actually chased some Murray crays, which I hadn't done since I was a kid, and we had more fun chasing the Murray crays than actually fishing itself. It was just brilliant fun, and we got a few. How many?
11 Murray crays.
11 Murray crays. There you go. So, it's all about just getting them out there and having some fun. We light the fire. As you said, you're on the riverbank and, get them out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Nature's there to be enjoyed and loved. I think the biggest conservationists of all are the people who use the wild areas. So, I've always thought that if I promote cod and cod fishing, more people will love cod and cod fishing and therefore want to protect it. So, there is always a nasty element to want to use and abuse, but more people will grow to love cod, and hopefully that means that there's more cod out there because everyone will be out there being a set of eyes protecting them, making sure people aren't set lining and making sure people aren't killing meteries and all that sort of stuff.
Look, you're always going to have the bad, and I know I grew up. I'm probably lucky enough to seen the other side of the story with uncles and grandfathers and all that. And I was involved in when I was a very young kid to going up the river and setting lines, and that was just what was done back in the day. But as I said, with Rex and changing people's attitudes, we just started, and it was take everything you caught and whatnot, and now it's just so good that we can look after these fish. We've got a slot limit. I don't begrudge anyone taking a feed. It doesn't matter what it is, but let's do it respectfully and let's make sure that we're not breaking the rules, and these fishing or these waterways will be there for when our kids are all grown up.
Yeah, absolutely. And people get very precious, which has probably gone a little bit too far with their Murray cod. And someone keeps a 65 centimetre cod for a feed for a family of four. I have no problem and never have had a problem with people doing what's legally right. So if you want to keep a cod for a feed, great. I mean, myself, I haven't kept a cod for a long time, but that's not because I don't want to keep one. Most times we're just camping and can't actually process it, so there's no point in keeping one.
Yep.
So, and I grew up going to Swan Hill and Nye West, way up the top of Victoria there. And, it was exactly like you described. It was set lines. It was kill everything. If you went to a redfin lake and you didn't come back with a sugar bag full, you'd failed. It was just an epic scale. So, to take from that, where every cod that was caught on the set line was killed and eaten, to now where the land farmers, they're keeping one cod for a feed for the family. It's a big, big turnaround.
Yeah, and that's that's what we've got to look at. We've got to take what you want for a feed, and that's it. Just go out the next time and enjoy yourself again. Yep. Listen, we're pushing close to an hour and 20 here. This has been really good. I've really enjoyed it. I can't wait until the next comp to actually sit down and have a beer and nut out some of these questions a little bit further. Yep. But I wanted to talk about the Masters, the Freshwater Fishing Masters, as another tournament for those guys that want to get into tournaments. I strongly suggest the Nationals at Mulwala because it is just different lures on different days, and that it just really, really brings everyone together in the field, and there's no front runners. But the Freshwater Masters is just I've done it now this 3 years. Yep. And the guys do an awesome job in the way that they run it, supplying the food and everything else, everything's supplied for. But the best thing I like is, for me, it's the only sort of freshwater tournament scene where you chase 3 different species of fish over 3 different waterways, and they're prime waterways at prime times. So we go straight to Windermere in spring to catch massive yellow belly. Then you go all catch and release, obviously. Then you go to from Windermere straight to Glenbourne to catch spring bass at Glenbourne, and everyone has a ball with the road trip and the roads in between. Of course, there's always somebody that does a bearing, and everyone jumps in and helps between the 2 dams. And then we have a couple of month layoff, come back for February for the cod round. I just love the Masters. I want you to, and I know you're a big lover of the Masters. Tell us what your thoughts are on the Masters.
So the Masters for me is, it's a lot what you said. What are the competition fishes, the 3 premier lakes for those species? Mulwala has been the home of cod forever. Glenbourne has always been the bass lake that you want to go to. And Windermere yellowbelly in spring is as iconic as yellowbelly fishing gets anywhere in Australia. So it gives you a chance to go and fish 3 iconic species in 3 iconic lakes. I can't talk up the concept of it highly enough. I love the idea that you're going to do these species in 3 different areas, and the amount of skill needed to do well in that competition is it's right up there. You can't just be a bass fisherman and expect to go well. Like bass and yellowbelly are a little bit transferable these days, I suppose, in some of the techniques and slowing down and all that sort of business. But if you're good at Windermere yellowbelly and no good at Mulwala cod, you're probably not going to end up that well. So you really need to be good at all of it. That's a whole suite of skills that, it's named very appropriately.
Yes, very much so. Now, we'll leave it on that. We're going to have to probably wrap it up because everyone's going to want to go to bed. I could sit here and talk to you for another 3 hours. This has been absolutely brilliant. Listen, can you, off the top of your head, can you remember a question tonight that just really sparked your interest? What was a question that you might, can you think of any that really just went, that's a great question?
Oh, see, now you're killing me. We've talked so much about everything.
Yep. That's all right. That's fine because I'm just going through the list and I'm thinking the next one I'm going to give. Now, nobody's really put where they're from on the list, but I'm going to do the gift voucher from Lee Martin Marine and the McGrath Vibe. I'm going to give that to Jackson North. Now, Jackson, can you contact me through Facebook? And if you are not local to the area where you can actually claim this one, I'll swap it for one of next week's prizes, and we'll give this one away next week. But please get a hold of me, Jackson North. You've got a prize, and now I've got to think of the winner for the major prize. And I'm not going to give it to Glenn Casey or Vanessa Bennett. I'm not going to give it to Matthew Langford. Who else asked the question earlier on? I'm not going to give it to my son. He's asked a couple. What was better, the best Murray Cod or the? That was a good question, but I won't give it to that one. I think, have I given Stephen Bounds? No, I haven't. Stephen Bounds, I'm going to give you the one. Stephen asked a question about the barometric pressure and the moon phases. So you're the actual winner of the mega prize back now. I do have to thank Rick Doyle and McGrath Lures and everyone else involved in helping out with this. So you get the Walker, the purple spinnerbait, and the triple pack. That is just massive value there for a prize pack. And we'll be giving them the exact same prize packs away next week. So, I really have to say thank you very much for your time tonight. It's been really great. Oh, Josh Usher's just put on there, awesome, way past your Boothy's bedtime. So, thanks, Josh. So, no, thank you very much. I hope everyone got something out of tonight. I need to introduce, I suppose, next week's guest. I've got all these videos that I got off you and photos, and I've hardly showed any of them. I was too busy talking. Where do we go back? Here, is there anything you would like to add, Boothie, while I'm looking for this?
No, I just think if everyone is keen to get out there and just have some fun, and that's what fishing is supposed to be, fun. Let's not take it all so seriously. Even during the tournaments, you find the guys who are having fun in the tournaments are the guys who tend to be going really, really well. So never forget, fishing's fun. That's why we started it. Let's just keep having fun.
Yep, that's it. I agree totally. Thank you very much for your time. As I said, I'll introduce next week's guest, and there it is, Miss Jo Starling, with the better half of the Starling crew, we believe. So we're going to talk to Jo next week about everything. I'm really keen to tap into talking about, you know, how she come around the plan to have a gap year and just fish fly. Unfortunately, it didn't all pan out because she did her knee. But, you know, Jo's a wealth of knowledge and a very, very competent fisherman in her own right. And we'll tap into Jo's expertise next weekend. So that'll be next week's show. We've got about 5 or 6 shows lined up still. But I am looking, if anyone wants to come on the show or has got something to offer, or even if it's just a guest spot within the show itself, please get a hold of me through my Facebook page. If you know anyone that you'd like to see on the show, send some details through and I'll see if I can get them on the show in future weeks. I want to keep this running throughout the coronavirus pandemic situation, just to have a bit of fun, but share the knowledge of these great fishermen like Boothie. You got anything to add? You didn't add anything to the great fisherman?
Yeah. You can call me great. I'm never calling me great.
I know. You're a very humble man, and really appreciate your time. Look, thank you very much for being on. And, you know, the information that you've given tonight is priceless. So thanks heaps. We'll cut it off here at an hour and a half, and we'll be on for next week. Chewin the Fat with the Cap, 8 o'clock Monday night at same bat station at Studio 1 Wodonga. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.